us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards, welcoming you to InFocus, a weekly program that takes a closer look at what's happening within and across the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. Today, we explore the future of agriculture in St. Kitts and Nevis, from drought conditions and climate resilience to greenhouse farming, food security, and of course, youth involvement. The sector is undergoing significant transformation. Well, joining us today is a man who is charged with leading that transformation. It's Stuart Versailles. He is the Director of the Department of Agriculture. And we'll also have Ms. Chaira Flanders, who is the Head of Communication and Community Food Security. They'll discuss the challenges facing farmers, innovative solutions being implemented, and the vision for building a more resilient, data-driven, and market-led agriculture industry. Stay with us for InFocus as we plow through efforts for innovating towards a food-secure tomorrow. Thanks for staying with us and allow me to welcome for the very first time on InFocus, Stuart Versailles, who, as I mentioned, is the new Director of the Department of Agriculture. So welcome, it's good to have you.
Actually, thank you for the invitation, and it's good to be here.
And of course, we have the veteran in communication, Chaira Flanders. Hello, Chaira. It's good to see you.
What's up, Ian? It's a pleasure to be back, as always. Yes. It's always a pleasure when you call.
Yes, of course. And we have some very important discussions that we need to take place. Of course, one of these things that I mentioned is that you are the head of community farming, community food security,
Community food security.
Is that a new designation for you? What's that?
Well, actually, yes, it is. We've decided that we would like to engage the community more as an agricultural sector, because, without the community, our stakeholders, we would not be able to get the kind of progress that we're seeking to accomplish in the development of agriculture in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so the community involvement, that includes the schools as well. So more youth in agriculture, and of course that includes the backyard gardeners. But we're going to touch into that later on.
Okay, and so Mr. Versailles, we'll start with you now, and mentioned at the top was made that you are the Director of Agriculture. You've been in that post since January of this year. February, excuse me. What is your vision, sir, coming in, and how did it complement the existing goals that the ministry had?
Agriculture is a resilient industry, sector, I must say. And my whole vision and view of agriculture is to see agriculture advance from where it is now to a more informed, data-driven, farmer-oriented sector that focuses on the development and advancement, as I indicated, of the production. St. Kitts, agriculture in St. Kitts has a lot of potential for growth. Yes, it faces many pressure in terms of irrigation, in terms of production, in terms of feral control, animal control, in terms of the market, but with proper systems that we hope to put in place, we're hoping to correct these measures for a brighter tomorrow, to pave a better path for our youths, our women, our children, our federation in general, as we advance.
Right. Okay. And one of the important things, because you just mentioned how resilient the industry is, how would you describe the current state of agriculture? And I'd want to hear Ms. Flanders to weigh in as well, as someone who has been with the ministry for some time. But Mr. Versailles, how would you describe the current state of the ministry? How should I say, of agriculture? Not the ministry itself, but agriculture sector.
Presently, we face some challenges. Presently, we face some challenges, but I want persons that are more focused in terms of extension services. So we want to get the extension officers out doing more interaction with the farmers, being more intimate in terms of the advancement and development. So I think presently we are on a good pathway. We just need to continue to strengthen those systems that we have for more efficiency inside and outside of the field, and for persons to be more aware as to what we are doing and how important it is for us to work together to enhance and develop the agricultural sector.
Flanders?
Well, just to add to what Director Versailles stated, you know that this is a transitioning period. We are restructuring. We've had a few changes that we've had to make, and that is because we are listening to our most important stakeholders, our farmers, our fishers, our food producers in general. And so because we are in the process of restructuring, I think right now the Ministry of Agriculture, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Marine Resources, we are trying to do our very best to pivot. We know that currently, not just in St. Kitts and Nevis, but across the region, we're facing a lot of issues due to the drought. And because we are actually facing the drought, that means what we did last year and the year before, we can't do that this year. And because of that, we want to ensure that we use all of our resources. You know that St. Kitts has a period, we have 2 seasons. We only have dry season and wet season, not like in America and other places where you have summer, winter, fall. We only have 2 seasons. And historically speaking, our farmers depended on the wet season so that they can do their planting, so that their fruits, their vegetables could flourish. But because of what we're experiencing right now, as a department, we're going to have to find innovative ways to pivot to ensure that the development of the sector is not affected drastically because of these changes, these climate changes.
And you know, as Ms. Flanders correctly indicated, this season with El Nino that we speak of, the prolonged drought, the heat wave that we are facing, it's unpredictable. Right? The place is going to get hotter for a longer period of time, more intense. So farmers will definitely have to take better precaution in terms of how they go about doing their farming, how they go about utilizing their water, and not just farming, but outside of agriculture as well. But we definitely hope to improve the availability and supportive methods for our farmers within St. Kitts and Nevis.
Let's talk a bit about the challenges. And you just touched on it. I suppose, is it fair to say that climate change is the greatest risk to farming in St. Kitts and Nevis and across the region, across the world right now? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is a fair statement. Climate change is one of our greatest challenges. Climate change is one of our greatest challenges.
And that's not something that can be addressed overnight. That's not a man-made thing.
It's not. And we must understand our space to which we operate. St. Kitts is a very small country. And we have just X amount of farmers in terms of utilizing little resource in terms of land production. So we must be aware. The seas are getting rougher. Rainfall is going to be more intense for a shorter period of time. So which means we may have an issue with erosion. Because heavy downpours, this water is not going to be absorbed in the soil. And that is where we want it to go. We actually want the water to penetrate the soil. And if we have more runoff, understand water running off of your soil, going into the seawater, then it takes away some of the soil with it. So we lose land. That's why we see some of the cliffside are broken off, is being broken off. So we must be cognizant of that fact. Right now, you drive around St. Kitts, it is brown. So we wonder what is actually going on. Our farmers, they're right now crying out because of the lack of water. Water is extremely important. I cannot emphasize on the term extremely. It is extremely important. Farmers if you realize that we would have given out a number of water tanks. We have invested in water tanks for the past couple of years because we understand the importance of irrigation, the importance of water, and that is direct result of climate change. A lot of persons don't believe in climate change, but I'm telling you, climate change is real. And it affects and will continue to affect the way in which we operate, the way in which we produce, the way in which we live.
I want to come back to the climate challenges a bit later, because there's a lot more in depth that we can go into during that discussion.
Of course.
But I want to touch on the other challenges that are facing the industry right now. Because as you mentioned, climate change might be the biggest, but of course there are several other contributing factors that can help to hurt the industry and development and to limit the achievement of that full potential as you spoke about. So tell us what other areas of focus that the ministry is attempting to tackle, the challenges that the ministry is facing.
Well, that's perfect, because just recently we were having discussions in our management meetings about the data-driven approach that we need in agriculture. Over the years, we've noticed that it has been difficult to get specific statistics because we needed to incorporate a more data-driven approach. And so that is one of the things that Mr. Versailles has indicated he would like more of at the Department of Agriculture. Because if you don't know what happened before, then you're going to drop in the same hole in the future, right? And so we have to figure out new and innovative ways, hence where the technology comes in. But I'll allow him to touch a little bit on that, because the boss is the one who said this is what he wants to see, so we have to make sure that we get what we need to get done for the boss, right?
I mean, really let's say what we want to see.
Yes.
All our decisions are driven by information.
That's right.
And regardless of how we may look at agriculture, if we really truly want to do better, do good for agriculture, we must understand what it is that agriculture needs. We cannot make decisions, and we should not make decisions without information. That is why we continue to indicate it must be market-led, it must be driven with information. I must know what it is that the farmer needs, when the farmer needs it, what it is that you need in your house, for how long you need it for. Right? So it is of extreme importance. We look at the economic diversification, we look at our resource efficiency, and mainly the participation of young persons, youth. Our aging community, farming community, is one of concern. And we want to make sure, we want to see more youth involvement. That is one of the areas that we spoke of in our said heads of meeting. And we want to create a center of excellence for young persons trained in agriculture to actually reach out and branch out and develop the agricultural sector. So while climate change affects us, our market also affects us. Right? The decision towards marketing, the decision towards what are we producing, when are we producing it, and how much we are going to produce is also important. We must understand our main resource is our people. Yes, we have the sun, we have the water, but what we truly have behind us that actually powers us is our people. And if we are to invest truly in our people, nutrition is of great importance. What we consume, what we grow, what we eat will determine the strength of our people. So agriculture is one that we all must invest in. And the Department of Agriculture, we are, because we should take that lead in terms of food security.
That's right. It also allows for better planning. I think that was one of our weaknesses, and we are trying to address that, because better planning is how you execute. And so just to add to that, the better planning, improved technology adoption, and stronger coordination across the production system. That means we're all supposed to be operating as one team, right? Your extension officers, the extension agents, they're field agents, but your agronomist, even your communication personnel, your quarantine officers, we're all supposed to be operating based on one purpose. And if we are to execute that, then it means then we would be able to accomplish all of the goals that we've set forth for the food security agenda.
An important part of that food security goes back to, and that cooperation that is being discussed, that's within the agency, but there must be interagency collaboration as well too, and that is where I would say an important partner that the Ministry of Agriculture would be the Water Department. Can you tell us a bit about how the balance is made between getting water for agriculture as opposed to those who would want it for manufacturing purposes, for those who would want it for sanitation purposes, for those who would want it for so many other things? What is the department, what is the relationship between the departments, and how do you ensure that there is priority given to agriculture?
Over the years, we have always had a good relationship with the Water Department. It is a resource that, as we indicated at the start, is a very scarce commodity, right? And everybody is fighting for their share. Agriculture is also fighting for our share in terms of water. Understand it is extreme importance because there can be no production without water. Farmers will not survive without water because of the importance of water. We would have engaged the Water Department numerous occasions. We would have written to the Water Department in terms of some areas where they can assist agriculture in terms of irrigation, in terms of water. Some farms have water. That is why we would have actually invested in water catchments. That is why you realize that we would have invested in the tanks that we are distributing to farmers. That is why I think last year the government would have brought in over 500 tanks to give to farmers and domestic homeowners in turn, because not just farmers, but we understand the need of backyard garden production that contributes significantly towards our food import bill, right? So water is essential not just for life, but the life, not just for life of our people, but that of the plants as well, that we consume of our people. So it's of extreme importance, and we continue to not just place, not just speak, but we continue to show that this is of our importance. I think recently we had a new water factory that just opened.
Suntank.
Suntanks.
Right. Before we speak about Suntank, though, there is the discussion that I had, because you just mentioned that the tanks are being distributed, or they were distributed for free. Well, they were distributed, excuse me. That's the question that I had. Were they distributed for free to farmers, or was there a cost associated with it?
The government absorbed that cost. All costs that were associated with the tanks in terms of its purchasing, its procurement, but we gave the farmers for free because we wanted to invest in the farmers. And we understood then, and we understand now the importance of water. So we gave them for free, and we asked them to set them up on their farms. We looked to install some water catchments for them to catch the water, collect most of the rainwater, and utilize that water in their production. So while the first batch that were distributed for free, we are hoping to gather some additional tanks where farmers would pay a minimum investment into that tank. Because I personally am of the opinion that it's a partnership, and it must be shared, government and also farmers. Farmers must understand that they also need to invest in their business, to advance their business, advance their cause, because the government's role is, as I indicated at the start of it, food security. Our job is to ensure that not just production is made, but that food actually reaches on the table of every household in St. Kitts and Nevis. Every mouth in St. Kitts and Nevis is fed.
Because of course there is that thinking that when things are free, you don't necessarily value them. You don't necessarily utilize them the way you're supposed to, and so that sorts of undermine the intention of the plans that have been put in place.
In some aspects, in some instances, where you would find some persons, and I will not sit here and indicate that it has gone 100% in our direction that we would want. There are some persons that actually misuse and abuse the system to which it is. but they are the majority that actually utilizes the platforms, utilizes the resources that we give to farmers and really use it for the purpose to which they are given, in terms of production, in terms of supplying what it is that they need to supply for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So while some persons may go off track, while some persons may decide, we give them a tank and tell them, listen, we want you to increase your production. We want you to help with the irrigation of your cabbage. They decide to take that tank and put it inside of the house and catch water for bathing, washing their utensils, wherever domestic use. And you may find that's 1 out of 10 persons. You have 9 persons, nine farmers, let's say in the community of Sandy Point, that actually utilizes those tanks to the purpose to which they were given. Now, we would have also encouraged persons to pay 20% of that cost. So government would have reached out and we would have purchased the tank, let's say it costs us, just to make maths easy, $100 per tank. We're just asking you to contribute $20 instead. So at least we're able to purchase a next batch of tank to help the next set of farmers that comes in. Because it must be progressive. And every intent that we do, every action must be, again, for the development and advancement of the people. Remember, we are only here today, but we have a number of persons coming behind us that is going to occupy this land. So we must be mindful that whatever we do, it must be not just for our generation, but the generation to come.
And when we're talking about water, I think it is also important to note that water management is one of the areas that we should be placing lots of focus, because we know the place is only going to get hotter. We know that it's going to continue. For how long, we don't know. But right now, based on what we are experiencing, the best thing for us to do is to try to prevent it. How can we manage the water that we do have? What do we do with it? And in the past, we've given the farmers under the drip, the drought resistance irrigation program. We've given them the tools, we've given them materials, including the ground cover. We gave them the water tanks. And another option that we just recently discussed is mulching. How do we utilize what we have to manage, to make better? This is where the innovation comes in, finding new and creative ways to manage what we have, conserving the water that we're using. Rain is falling, you better make sure that you have your buckets outside. You better make sure that you're catching water. Sometimes I have to catch water for the house. I'm telling you. Sometimes I have to catch water because you don't know. And I don't want to throw the blame on anybody, because I know how I feel when I get home and I can't shower the way that I want to. I know that I'm going to be irritated, and I don't know if you're like me, Ian, but I'm spoiled and I like a little AC. I like to feel cool. So I need to ensure that I prepare myself, whether it is water for bathing, whether it is water for drinking. So it's the same thing for those of us who do a little backyard gardening here and there. I try to catch a little water so that my peppers could get the little water as well. So I have a bucket for me and a bucket for my peppers. All right, so figuring out how we can utilize what we have, the water conservation. The same thing with households, the water conservation. It is extremely important. And I think Mr. Versailles mentioned earlier that we want to encourage our farmers to properly manage during this time, because it's critical.
It's vital.
Is the drip program, is that still being, is that ongoing? Is that still ongoing?
It is always. The drip program, as indicated, is the system, the water system, irrigation system that you actually utilize, that we encourage the drip and trickle system, that in terms of the sub-main, and you direct the water to where you actually need. So the irrigation, the water drips out by that exact plant root, so the water is not wasted. So as Ms. Flanders correctly indicated, that water management is important. Right? Water security is of extreme, and I cannot emphasize enough, extreme importance in terms of, it's not just important for the crop farmer, it's important for the livestock farmer, it's important to every household in to ensure food security. If we don't have water security, we won't have no production. Imagine agriculture without water. Can you truly imagine agriculture without water? Can you truly imagine food without water? Even to prepare your meal, you need water. That's the importance of water. So we're not just trying to play it off the ear, but we want to make sure that when farmers think about irrigation, when farmers think about water, they're looking at how they utilize the water, how they manage the water, the irrigation that they take into consideration. Let's look at the evaporation. Ms. Flanders indicated mulching. We would have started the program with the ALCAS youth group, community group, in terms of preparing mulch for agriculture. Some food tree crops, some root crops, some additional crops that you want to actually put a solid amount of mulch around that plant that prevents the evaporation of moisture in your soil. So the water retention is held in the soil a little longer.
Right.
So plant can take advantage of absorbing those nutrients. The soil is not as dry. So, but we must at every step change the vision, change the idea, change the mindset of our people in terms of preserving that little water that we have.
Are they responding well to these type of new techniques, these innovations that you mentioned? Because, of course, there's a difference between young persons, and we're going to speak a bit about youth involvement in agriculture a bit later. But in terms of the more veteran farmers, are they incorporating these new techniques, these innovations that have been recommended by the Ministry of Agriculture and the department itself? How are they responding?
I think we have had some good responses. We would have had some training in water conservation, water retention, and we would have showed through our propagation unit, through our crop program. And even some farmers would have went out and purchased some mulching material, mulching machinery to do some mulching. So we have more farmers now doing mulching. I mean, in the old time days, we used to do mulch. You used to have some, maybe they cut some banana leaves, put them around the plant, or they would just take some leaves and just throw them in the furrow and allow them to, cool down the soil.
Especially during prolonged periods of dry heat.
Right? So we have good response. I think one day I went up in the farm and one farmer showed me, first says, listen, I'm incorporating mulch. Right? I don't have the material, but I have some cardboard that I have laid along the furrow between each plant. So he had his plants and then he has some cardboard drenched along, and if you remove the cardboard, you realize it actually prevents some of the moisture from being lost. So it keeps the soil a lot cooler. You have now more useful organisms, more aeration inside of your soil. So the plants now have better absorption, right? In terms of the aeration inside of the soil, better access to the said nutrients. So I think we have had and we have seen an uptake in the action, which means we are changing the mindset. And that's the intention, changing the mindset of the persons when they're in the field and the use of the materials and resources that we have.
And filling the gaps as well. That's where Suntank came in, because they recognized that there was a gap in terms of there were no water tanks being produced here. They made a proposal and they were able to start a factory. It's located in Keon now, where they're producing, given a recent tour that the Prime Minister conducted, I think 3 different sizes. And so what's the relationship there with Suntank? How useful would you say that they are in this battle against the climate scourge that the Prime Minister describes it as?
You know, as my grandmother used to say, God bless her soul, a bad wind never blow. Right? And it is I think at the time is appropriate with Suntanks now coming into play because of this. This El Nino is going to be more aggressive on record than previous years. You're going to see the place getting drier, things are going to get harder.
And that's not according to you, that's according to experts.
That's according to experts, right? That's according to scientists. That's according to the information that has been gathered and the monitoring. That's according to our meteorology stations here also in St. Kitts. So let us, Suntanks, I think Maish would have called me a couple of weeks back. Listen, Versailles, I know you understand, you just became the director. This is our plan. This is what we have been doing. They have now 5,000 tanks. They have 10,000 gallon tanks, which is appropriate. So no longer farmers will be able to just put a 250 tank and put on their farm. Because from the time you actually turn on that water, that's it.
Right.
You only have water to last, let's say, 2 hours. But if you truly want to irrigate a crop, you will need about, let's say, 40, 50,000 gallons of water. And these are the tanks now that Sunshine tanks are actually producing. So it's appropriate, perfect timing. And I must say congrats to the PM for the vision. Congrats to Maish for getting this company up and running and actually producing in time for our next planting season that is coming up.
It's already the bottom of the hour. Would you believe it? We're going to have to take our
like
first
that.
break. But I want to touch on our next topic. When we come back, we want to talk a bit about, as we speak about water scarcity, of course, one way of helping water to not evaporate as fast is having a controlled environment. And the biggest way, it seems right now, is greenhouses. So we're going to talk a bit about that when we return from our break. Stay with us, viewers and listeners. We'll be right back with more InFocus.
I was sent to the minister and the PSN support that I'd spoken to you.
Yes.
And I wanted you to come and see.
Yes.
I know you're surprised.
Yeah, I'm very
extent.
surprised. We are very impressed.
Yeah. And so that is why I was asking about the technical support, having an expert more than anything else, you know, who can come and help us to really make sure that this gets to the level that we want it to get to.
Yes, and we do have, I do bring my colleague,
Yes.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes.
He's an expert.
Yes.
So he's been looking at the structures and he told me that especially those ones are very climate resistant.
Yes.
And you can see this, so he understands the structure.
Yes.
And so what I'm saying is that we can work with the Ministry of Agriculture to give some advice.
Yes.
And is there anything additional, then we could, of course, we'll go back to ICTF
Of course.
to see what they can put in the
So ICDF can see that we have done a significant amount by ourselves.
Yes. And it's very impressive.
Very
And very quick.
Yes, very
on
quick.
January, you know.
Yes.
So we'll complete it very soon.
Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion on agriculture and innovating to secure a more food secure tomorrow. And our discussion is taking place with Stuart Versailles, who is the Director of Agriculture, and Chaira Flanders, who is the Head of Communication, and also now Community Food Security. Greenhouses are persons who are looking at the program would have just seen a brief excerpt of a tour that was conducted by Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew, along with yourself and the Minister of Agriculture, the Honourable Samal Duggins, and they were accompanied by
Ms. Flanders.
Well, I was sticking more so with the larger heads, but of course, Ms. Flanders is always important. I think she's everywhere, but I think also she prefers to be in the background most times.
That's true.
Now, as mentioned, the Taiwanese ambassador, the resident ambassador, His Excellency Ling Wen Tao, he was also there as well too, and there was a discussion about getting Taiwan's assistance with the greenhouse village. Before we get there, we need to talk about the greenhouse village. It's at Brotherson's estate. What's that initiative?
We do understand, as we continue to speak about resiliency and climate change and other factors that affect agriculture within St. Kitts and Nevis, the minister would have actually came up with this said greenhouse concept and the greenhouse village. And the idea is, we're not getting bigger, we're not getting larger lands, right? So we must become more innovative in terms of producing for our people. And while we understand that we are not getting additional land space, we must now utilize the minimum land space that we have for maximum production. And the greenhouse village, with stronger hurricane, with hotter air, less rainfall, is now a more controlled environment to which you want to plant and produce. Not only planting on a, let's say, 2,000 square feet land, but you can also vote horizontally. But now within those greenhouses, we can plant vertically. So we can plant one, let's say 50 plants. Instead of planting 4 plants along the ground, we now have 50 plants that is actually standing one on top of the other and producing. So imagine you're walking through a plot where you can actually pick your tomatoes as if you're picking them from a tree. So instead of growing along the line, your cucumbers, instead of growing along the line, you can actually reach up and pick one cucumber to cucumber tree. So that is what we're talking about, having more mass production in a smaller space to feed a wider community.
How many greenhouses are being constructed?
24.
24.
Yes.
Right. And are they designated in terms of like what type of crops will be produced there? Because as you speak about market-led approach, and we're going to have to discuss that once there's time. Of course, we're short on time right now. But has there been are crops identified as yet that this greenhouse will produce this these different crops, and the farmers who will do so?
Well, leafy greens is one of the focuses. You know, the lettuce, tomatoes.
As we indicated, we do not want to be making decisions just for making decisions, just making decisions' sake. Every decision we make in agriculture, we want it to be based on information. We want it to be based on the data. We want it to be based on improving and protecting and actually providing for our people.
Yes.
So yes, we would have considered, yes, the market would have been looked at, and some of the crops that we would have identified as Ms. Flanders indicated, leafy greens. Yes, we're looking at the sweet pepper, we're looking at the tomato, we're even looking at cut flowers, imagine, because the amount of cut flowers that actually been coming into St. Kitts, right, over the years, and also cut flowers come with some diseases, some viruses, so we must protect our front line. We must protect not just the food that we import, but we must protect the farmers to make sure that we don't bring diseases into that federation, into our federation. So we're looking at every single aspect of agriculture. So we have tomatoes, we have sweet pepper, we have the leafy green,
the lettuce,
and we have lettuce, cabbage. Root tubers also would be in those greenhouses. I think there were 7 crops that we would have identified to be planted in those greenhouses along with cut flowers.
And Taiwan's role at this stage?
At this stage, Taiwan has been playing an important role since the onset. Taiwan has been with us for decades in terms of developing and advancing agriculture in St. Kitts, and they continue to be a strong partner in the advancement of agriculture. So they would have played a significant role in this startup, in its establishment of the greenhouse, and they have contributed and promised to play an even greater role going forward into our next greenhouse village. I think that's the information I should have.
Breaking news, I always enjoy breaking news on the program.
Well, the intention, as the minister indicated, his intention is to actually, this is the first of many. Let me say that much. This is the first of many, because he wants to see it replicated in other area. So while this is at Bodderson, he's looking at another area to put another 26. I can tell you that much.
Okay. But when can we expect, if you're speaking about having another greenhouse village, the question we ask then, well, when is this one going to finish? Is there a set time?
Yes. If you would have realized, I think the video, you would have seen most of the greenhouses already completed in terms of the shade. The polythene plastic has been laid, the sour netting has been laid also. We're just to finish the layout, the covers.
Including the gutters to catch the rainfall.
Each one will actually have its own water catchment, water tank established. So we're looking at the end of this month, which is June, for the completion of the greenhouses. And now the aesthetics we're looking at by the end of June. So all the water tanks, catchment, platforms and so forth will be in by the end of July. So we are hoping the fencing, the complete fencing of the greenhouse village, because we do not want to give any farmer unless we have complete security down at the greenhouse village and all infrastructure completed. We want them to be outfitted, we want them to be well irrigated, and the ground matting actually covered. So we are looking for, by the end of August of this year, that we have full implementation, that we can actually begin the distribution of this greenhouse for production to actually begin come September, as the minister would have indicated that he would be more than moved and he would like all the greenhouses to be in operation come September. And so we have that timeline to work with.
We are guided, of course, by the fact that we don't control the weather, as we mentioned. God forbid we just entered the hurricane season, and we certainly would pray that we are not impacted by any adverse weather that would cause any sort of loss of life and property.
Amen.
And so we pray against that. But those are the factors,
Amen.
of course, that would influence the completion of the project. That's just one of them. Of course, materials as well too. We are aware of what's happening within the global conflicts.
Yes.
Supply chain issues. We had Senior Minister, the Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas on recently, and he spoke about some of the challenges they're facing. It seems something that I brought up at the Ministry of Tourism recent press conference, because if companies, hotels are going to be being built, there are of course materials that need to be brought in, and these are the very real issues that impact projects.
And you're correct, and you are absolutely correct. Now remember, everything that I would have said is on a perfect environment, that hopefully everything goes according to plan as we would have laid them out.
That's true.
And nothing, almost 100% never goes according, but we are hopeful that at least 90%, and hopefully by September you would actually see the development and production begin.
And the farmers have been, how does one get to operate a greenhouse? What's the process like?
We will have a registration. So farmer will have to register, and we have a selection process in terms, because we would have started greenhouses a couple of years back, and we would have given them to various farmers and placed them on different lands. And one of the things, that is why the minister indicated, listen, I would like a central point where farmers come there.
Right.
Because we would have invested, I think, 40 greenhouses in the past on various lands, and you find as soon as the hurricane season hit and some of the greenhouses were destroyed, damaged, there was no system in place to repair them. And we're saying, listen, let's have a training session for these set farmers so they understand how to take down the greenhouse, how to put up the greenhouse during the hurricane season, strong winds. Greenhouse can be maintained, can be, the polythene plastic can be removed, soil netting can be removed, so the wind allowed to pass through. And as soon as the hurricane passes, we can reassemble the greenhouses and move through. So we do have a registration process. We will have a selection process that we will indicate to farmers when that process begins, so the appropriate right persons can actually take hold of the greenhouse and put them into the production line where we would want, because they would be guided by the Department of Agriculture, and influenced heavily by the Department of Agriculture
as well too. And so if you are struggling with yours, there's someone next to who might have a bit more easier time in terms of growing their crops. You can go and seek their assistance. You can network with each other and share resources to help support each other in that respect. And so that's, I would say, is one of the advantages of also having them grouped together. But greenhouses offers a protective environment, as I mentioned. But let's look at those farms that don't have greenhouses. Now, one of the concerns, of course, that has been raised several times is feral animals. That's a big concern that farmers have. And also roaming livestock. I can't tell you how many times you're driving along the island main road and you see sheep, you see cow, you see all sorts of different goats just roaming around the place. How big of a problem is this? What's been done to tackle it?
It's a serious issue, Ian.
And
I would allow
Ms.
Flanders to begin.
We can spend the whole show on this one.
It's a serious issue.
Minutes.
Okay, now feral animal is serious. It is a serious issue. Since I got to the department, one of the things we would have done is we started the feral unit control, and we have opened it 24/7.
That's that. What is that?
In terms of the monkey control. Right? We wanted to have an immediate relief for the farmers, because while we may have many ideas, our farmers, our crop production is under threat. And as we continue to indicate, monkeys are going to bring poverty on this land if we're not cautious about our action. So we must bring that population under control. because they're causing some serious damages to the farming community and a serious threat to our existence, our livelihood, our people. Right? We not only the monkeys that we're looking at, but the wild pigs. And wild pigs, while monkey will come and bite maybe 1 or 2 potato, sweet pepper, whatever the case may be in a night, a pig can destroy your entire production overnight. Right? So that is serious. And we're asking farmers to be vigilant. We're asking farmers to check your wires, make sure that your fencing is up. Right? Be patient. Be on your farm more often. Do the necessary checks. Call the Department of Agriculture. Let us reach out. Let us work together. Because to ensure food security, it is not just the job of the Department of Agriculture, but it is one for farming community, the extension officers, and the Department of Agriculture, the government. All of us work together in one unity, one pathway to achieve that success.
We need animal owners to also be more responsible, Ian, because you could only imagine how disheartening it is to know that you've put in a significant amount of investment in your crops, and for someone's animals to just come in one night and completely destroy all that you have built. I mean, it's just awful. So for those persons who have animals, I mean, we always ask that people fence their animals. If you have to tie your animals, because you know how the popular saying goes, it's not yours until someone says, I have to deal with that.
We said, listen, everyone has a role to play in helping to avoidable impacts and helping to avoid avoidable impacts. Right? It is a responsibility of everyone, and we are trying to hold everyone accountable also. But let us be responsible first and foremost. Let's understand, listen, we have a job to do. We have a job to be responsible for the animals to which we call ours. We have a job to be responsible so that our animals don't impact the livelihood of the farmer. Because when we allow our animals to roam, they are going to look for food. So any little obstacle they're going to break, and they're going to go in somebody's farm and they're going to destroy their crop. Understand, if I was in their position, how would I feel? And we must learn to put ourselves in that position as well. How would I feel as a farmer, as a dog owner, that somebody dog come into my yard and damage all my crops? That I'm trying to, that is what's going to bring a living for me.
All your animals, because they attack animals as well.
All my animals.
Yes.
How do I feel? It's a financial impact. So people loses when your animals stray onto other person's property. It's financial impact. And money don't go on tree. Right. Persons do not just go out and say, you know what, I lost 3,000 pounds of sweet pepper that would have paid my bill, sent my daughter to college, and now I can't do that because there's a setback. So we have that obligation, we have that responsibility that we're asking and we're calling on everybody to play a part. Let us all be responsible in our actions as animal owners, as dog owners, as farmers themselves, in terms of safeguarding the property of others.
Can the animals be impounded? Those that roam around, they're herds, because there's no one animal roaming around per se. Even with the cows, you will rarely see one cow, you'll see 2 or 3 cows together. Can they be impounded? What measures are there to control them?
Well, just recently we had a discussion about that, because the director might have some good news to share as it relates to impounding. One of the things that we discussed, because the complaints keep coming, and we know that it is quite difficult on both sides of the fence. No true dog owner would feel good knowing that something happened to their dog because their dog attacked someone else's animals. And so we've been using the route of encouraging people to not only be more responsible, but to cooperate, not just with the farmers, not just with the Department of Agriculture, but with the law. It is truly your responsibility as an animal owner to ensure that your animal is caged, that your animal is in a confined space if needs be, in your yard, even if it is not chained. Your animals could be free roaming, but in your private space, because then it becomes my responsibility to protect my property and my animals if we have other animals coming in to destroy. We discussed briefly the need for a pound. And as it stands right now, I think we're going to engage in more discussions with the police because, like I said, this is the law. We really should encourage people to cooperate with the law. Mm-hmm. So before we make any decisions as it relates to impounding, we need to ensure that all parties, as you say, it's a collaboration, so a collaborative effort, a discussion with the department, a discussion with our stakeholders, or a discussion with our pet owners, along with the cooperation of the police force, whether it is police or the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force, but ensuring that we finally come to some sort of solution so that we could prevent this from continuously occurring. It's a serious problem. I passed 2 of them on the highway just yesterday. 2 of the cattle on the highway yesterday. So we know that it really is a serious problem.
And really and truly, if there are goats and I wish to have some goat water, why can't I just take up one off the road? I mean, like really and truly, they're just walking around. That's a valid question.
That would be illegal.
You see, Ian? You see this, Ian?
I would just want to say, listen, everyone benefits. Right? Everyone benefits when responsibility is taken seriously. I want to say it again. Everyone benefits when responsibility are taken seriously. When people take and understand their responsibilities, the other man will benefit. Right? I would benefit as well, because the accountability, the onus is on them to make sure they do what they are supposed to and are asked of. Mm-hmm. We would have identified a location for the pound, as Ms. Flanders indicated. We would, and we are now, and we will be moving forward in terms of if these animals are not protected, we are going to remove them from the road. So we are pleading, we are asking, we are urging the farmers, try and control your animals. A number of persons would have already sent me photos, pictures about the animals roaming onto their land, destroying their property. And we're asking farmers, listen, try your best to prevent your animals from going into another man's property. One person sent me a picture with animals on their land, and the farmer is at the side just looking at the animals roam and graze on the property of the other.
So you're saying I can't just keep the goat or the cow?
No, you can't just keep the goat or the cow. Wow. It is illegal. Another thing that is coming that we are going to implement, you do understand in terms of the dog attacks that's on the increase. A number of livestock farmers are crying out for these dog attacks. They're becoming more vicious. They're becoming more aggressive. Once upon a time, you might have heard of a dog being mauled by a dog. And small ruminant, a goat, a sheep, being mauled by a dog with a small bite, and that's about it. Now you're hearing bellies are being ripped open, throats are being sliced, 15, 20 animals killed in one night. It means then that these dogs are becoming a lot more aggressive. And if they are becoming a lot more aggressive, it wonders, we have oftentimes Walkerton, young persons walking inside of the mountain, often by themselves. God forbid that one of these dogs now come out and attack a child by themselves walking through the hills. We can't afford that to happen. So one of the things that we are looking to do as well, in terms of licensing, we're going back to the licensing. Every dog must be licensed. And we're asking, and we're now going to enforce that every person have a license for their dog. So we speak about accountability, and we're going to put it in play. So people have to be accountable for the animals to which they have. In terms of the breeding of these animals, we're asking you to stop this aggressive breeding of these aggressive animals, because oftentimes they are then let go into the hills, and these are the animals that interbreed and create an even more aggressive breed inside of the mountain and go after animals. And I'm hoping they don't reach a point where they begin to go after people. So I have asked the officers, and we're looking towards controlling these wild dogs within the mountain and the lowlands as well, affecting the livestock of our farmers. Because remember, as I indicated, my main and principal objective as the Director of Agriculture is securing food security for our people. And any means that prevent our people from obtaining nourishment on their tables is a problem for me. And that obstacle, I have to try my best to eliminate.
Just time for one more question. And I think it's a reinvigorated initiative that the department has. Of course, there are a number of things that we can discuss further. I did want to touch on youth involvement. But as you speak about your focus being food security and ensuring that persons have food to eat here, it's important that farmers plant the crop, but it's also important that consumers eat local. And I know that there was an initiative, Eat Local Day. Is there something that is going to be done to help to promote locals to do so?
I see you have been paying attention to our social media pages, Ian.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you looking through the info. But yes, you are absolutely correct. We are actually preparing right now for the return of Eat Local Day, a very popular event that the Department of Agriculture is going to take pride in hosting this year. It's going to be held on the 26th of June. We're going right back in the Independence Square, and it's going to be held the same day as the Child Month March, the march that is annually held. We are excited to bring back the Eat Local Day. This year it's going to be held under the theme, Proudly Produce, Proudly Consume. This year we've decided, instead of just having Eat Local Day on that one day, we're going to have Eat Local Week. And during that week, we are featuring 2 events. The Eat Local Day is just the second event that is going to culminate the activities. But on the Wednesday, we are going to have our Agri Night Market, which is music festival themed. Of course, obviously, because we are celebrating the St. Kitts Music Festival again this year. And so we're inviting persons to support not just the Eat Local Day on the Friday, but also the Agri Night Market, which will be held on Wednesday, the 24th of June, from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. in the public market. And then on Friday, you go to the Eat Local Day, which is going to be in the Independence Square, and it begins at 11 a.m. By the way, this year, the Department of Agriculture is going to be assisting the vendors. And because of that assistance, all of the food that is going to be sold will be at a fixed $25. Doesn't get any better than that. I bought lunch yesterday for $30, so I know. The $25 is a steal of a deal because the food is always delicious. And I'm really, really happy that we are bringing that back. So we're promoting, we have 1 week, 2 events, all local.
Can we expect in the future Eat Local Day to become maybe Eat Local Months or some further expansion once every month? Is that likely?
That is the intention. That is the intention. Not just the month. As we indicated, we want to change the mindset of our people. And we want our people to believe and understand the importance of local production and local consumption, supporting the local farmer, supporting the local produce. I would like to see more local restaurants that serve local cuisine rather than having the Burger King and the hamburger and the French fries. And no, let me get some dumpling and saltfish. Let me get some Johnny cakes by the side. Let me get some fungi. Let me get some stew. You understand? This is what I want to see on a menu. This is what I want to see when I go into a supermarket and ask for a lunch.
Right.
And our young persons, I would like them to also ask for this. So I would like to now reach out and say thank you to the Ministry of Tourism because they have partnered with us in terms of eating local, taste local. They have also contributed and sponsored every single activity that the Department of Agriculture would have moved and advanced with, because I think the motto or something is venture deeper.
Venture deeper.
Right? And the spirit of St. Kitts, other things that they would have actually utilized, which actually supports our local cuisine, our local people. So we encourage persons at Eat Local Day to come out, show up, show out at Eat Local Day on the 26th of June this month. Support the local music festival, also our local Agri-Night Market, which is on the 24th. And that's the Wednesday before Music Festival. So you actually, that week, you have a place to go.
Quite a festive week.
Well, additional place to go.
Additional place to go.
So much to do, right?
So from the market to the square and the local, we encourage everybody to celebrate us.
That's right.
We have to leave it right there. We're out of time for this program. Chaira, Flanders, Stuart, Versailles, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of InFocus. Please do come back. We want to discuss about youth involvement in agriculture, and also, as I always mention, the ministry is so carefully put together. Entrepreneurship, small businesses within that same ministry. So how do you get farmers to see themselves as entrepreneurs and as businessmen and businesswomen, as opposed to just planting a crop and selling it? So discussion that we must have in the future. We'd like to thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us for this edition of InFocus. We trust that you'll join us next week, same place, same time, for another edition of InFocus. I'm Ian Richards.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.